Hi, for the YouTube video today I'm going to discuss about a Java project, combination of frameworks like Spring, Struts, Hibernate. We want to create a employee management system. So you can see the project structure here. Under SRC folder we created the package, action class, service class, DAO package, model package, and you can see under the resources folder we created a application context XML and Hibernate config file. Hibernate config file for creating the configurations of Hibernate, and struts.xml file is required to provide the struts configuration. And web content will have all the JSP files for creating front end pages and all. So I'm going to explain each and every one for this YouTube video. So initially we need to create an entity using a Hibernate. So we are going to use employee class, and we are annotated with the table entity, and we have a columns ID, name, salary, you can see, and ID is so we marked it as a identity so that we can generate a unique value for this entity class. And after that we need to create a DAO class, because DAO is a data access object class. We will create a session object, and through the session object of Hibernate we will actually interact with the database, and we will actually persist the data. We can fetch the data values, you can see here. So we are going to auto-wire the session factory, and through the constructor C we are going to save the employee data. You can see there is a session factory object. We auto-while we created an object, and through the constructor through the save method, see it is a public void save method. First there is no constructor here, it is a void method, and we created a get all method. Here we are going to fetch the details, employee details, you can see. We used a Hibernate query language. It is a simple query language. We are getting see, after creating a session object, session factory dot get the current session dot create query from employee, means it will indirectly forms a native query for database, because it is a Hibernate query, and we're going to get the data for employee entity. Okay. And there is a service class. We need to create a service class. Why do we need a service class? Because through service class we will auto-wire the employee DAO object. Okay, through the employee DAO object, what we are doing here, see, we are calling the save method and we are calling get all method, both the methods, right? So we are going to mark this service class as a transactional, because we are actually using only two methods. At the transaction annotation is required to make sure that either all DB operations will get successful, or none of them will get successful. So to maintain the atomicity, consistency, to make sure the database operations are follow asset properties, we use at the transactional annotation. So struts basically we are using for routing the input request to the particular action class. The model, we will render the we will basically route this particular request to particular action class. So here we are going to create employee action class, which takes care of the routing, the input routing to the employee. So here you can see we need to auto-wire the service class and employee object as well, and we are calling employee service dot save employee method. Here we have a getter method and setter method. So struts configuration, you can see we need to map the action class and we need to map the view class. What is the view class? View class is the employee.jsp, which is created under web content folder, right? So it is a routing. See, it is just mapping the model data to a particular JSP. At the same time, we are also routing the request to specific action class. Basically, the employee request, it will trigger the employee action class. From the employee action class, we are going to call the employee service. From the employee service, we're going to call DAO class, and from the DAO class, we're going to call, from the DAO, we are going to interact with the database. That is the actual flow. Okay, and why do we need a Spring Bean configuration? Because we need to create a dependencies, right, that are required for the project. So Spring Bean configuration basically deals with the dependency management. We will specify all the classes dependencies that are required for the project. We specify everything in the Spring Bean configuration. So we're going to create a bean object. The bean object is org spring framework.orm hibernate 5 local session factory bean. You see here, session factory is an ID for a local session factory bean. So we need this dependency of this particular local factory bean, local session factory bean. So that is why we specify this particular bean configuration. So all the bean configuration we specify using a Spring Bean configuration file. Okay, you can see here. So that is why. So first, Struts XML is for mapping the action class and the view class. So what is the view class? We need to map the employee model to employee JSP, and we need to map the employee action class. Which action class is going to process the flow of this particular employee thing, right? So Spring Bean configuration, we are going to use the Spring Bean configuration because we need to use the session factory. So that is why we're going to use it. And JSP form, here we're going to use the JSP form. You can see there is a action equal to save employee. So where is this action? You can see save employee. If you look at the Struts configuration file, we have a action class mapped with the name save employee, right? So the thing is, what happens here, as soon as you click on the form save button, immediately this employee.name, employee.salary details, they'll be passed to the employee action class. They'll map it to entity, employee entity. Employee action class will get triggered, and you can see we're going to pass this entity to the employee service method. What is the dot save employee of method? We're going to pass the employee object. You can see it is it will work that way. So you can see the request flow. So in the client generally use the browser. He may use browser or anything. Generally they'll use browser. They'll hit the endpoint. After that, the request will be propagated using a Struts controller. You can see Struts will route your request to the corresponding action class, and from the action class, Spring service will get executed, and from the Spring service we're going to use the Hibernate DAO class. So you have to understand two things here. First thing is, Struts configuration file is for mapping all the action classes and model to the view class. You will specify all these mappings in the Struts configuration. Basically deals with mapping your request to particular action class. If you have an employee details, you will have an employee action class. If you have a manager, the details needs to be updated, you will have manager action class. So for each and every entity, you can actually create a separate action classes, and you can map that entity data to respective JSP page. Okay, this is the traditional architecture that was widely used in enterprise Java application using Spring MVC, become the most dominant web application. You believe it or not, still most of the companies are still using the same architecture, Spring MVC, because The thing is, they're building enterprise applications. You can build any enterprise application. You are going to simplify your dependency management using spring.xml file, spring configuration file, spring bean configuration file. You can actually map as many beans as you want. You can use third-party libraries, third-party classes also. You can simply create a bean ID and you can use them. Okay, struts configuration file, you want to use a strut configuration file. As I told you, you need to specify the action classes, number of action classes that you want to create for particular entities, and you can actually map the data. Okay, so I hope this video would be very useful for you. Thank you for listening.